Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another week of the Rec Poker Podcast. You know, you're in for a treat when you hear that sound because it means that it's Monday night. We are getting together. We're playing in the nightly home game. We're stealing each other's chips. And just like every week, we're going to take a post from the Rec.Poker forums and talk about it here on the air. So if you don't know what Rec Poker is, it's a free community of poker lovers, folks that are learning the game and want to share their love with each other, who want to learn together, study together, share resources, and be that support, be that rail while you're out there winning. It helps having people in your corner cheering you on. So that's what Rec Poker is all about. I'm your host, Jim Reed, Bluff Sterini in the home game. And if you want to learn more about me, you can go to rec.poker/crew, and you can learn about me and all the rest of the Wrecking Crew, the village of Rec Poker wizards that come together every week to make all this magic happen. So, wizards, why don't you tell the folks at home where they can reach you?
I'm John Somsky, and I am Poker Geek MN everywhere.
I'm Rob Washam, and I'm Rabman50 everywhere.
I'm Tim Fritz, and I'm Miss Click Donkey everywhere.
And I have to also thank website AMP and the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, without whom we would not be able to make any of this happen. So thank you to them for all their support. And to you, listener, if you feel like helping us out, you can go to rec.poker/support and find ways to do that there, either for free or with a couple of bucks a month. But the best way to do it is by signing up for premium membership. All it costs is $5 for your first month with the code RECPOKER, and you can unlock all sorts of amazing training videos, strategy sessions, community events, access to pros, games, fun, learning, community. We do it all here, and we do it with a smile. So come and join. Now, let's talk poker game. So this is a hand that we're looking at from the Rec Poker forums. This is from Monkey System, Keith Brandt, who's a member of our Wrecking Crew, who hosts a monthly study group, a study session based on advanced poker training and some of the other materials that he works with off the felt. He is curious about whether this is a cooler or just a bad call. So I'll sort of get us into the hand of it here, and then I'll throw it to the panel to talk about what they think is best. This is a 8 max tournament. We're in the top 10% on the leaderboard in the last level of re-entry. We're starting with 63 big blinds, and we have the table covered, but there are a few players that can threaten our stack. And we are pre-flop dealt the king of diamonds, 9 of diamonds in the big blind. And middle position raises to 2 big blinds, the cutoff calls, and we defend. So we get 3-handed to the flop. The flop comes pretty good for us. King of spades, king of hearts, 6 of spades. We've got the king 9 of diamonds. So we've got trips to the 9. And the post sort of takes on what happens after this. So we're going to be checking here a lot. And we do. Middle position, the original raiser, they check as well. And then we get a small bet from the cutoff, who should be betting at a pretty high frequency here when it goes check, check to them. And then it's back to Monkey System, and Keith has to make a decision about how to proceed. So without poisoning anyone's minds about what happens next, what are you guys thinking about when you get into this spot? And what should Keith be considering when he's facing this kind of decision? Or what have you guys felt in a spot similar to this, where, you know, you're sitting there with trips, you got a pretty good kicker. Are you typically feeling like comfortable in this position?
Oh yeah, this is a great spot to be in. I mean, really, because your hand is kind of camouflaged a little bit. You know, like, yes, you could have a king, but you could also have, you're going to be flatting 6s. You're going to have a lot more 6s in your range than any of the other positions in the pot right now.
Mm-hmm.
And especially paired boards. It doesn't even have to be a face card, but paired boards, especially the last act. So the cutoff here, they're supposed to bet 100% of the time. They can they're almost always just go small. And a lot of times that just wins you the pot. because if, people are going to call if they're on the board or have, some sort of draw, or they're just going to fold. So I don't think like there's any argument here for like, should we lead out? I think we just check and kind of let the action come to us. Which is, I think, just pretty standard.
Yeah, we don't tend to advocate for a lot of leading the flop. Typically, that generally gets better played as a check, and then expressing that through a check raise or a check call or something like that instead. So we get into this kind of interesting action, because what ends up happening is it goes check, check, and then a small bet from the cutoff. And Keith check raises, and let me just get sure the sizing here. So the down bet is to 1.84 big blinds, and the hero raises to 6. And NP, the original raiser has 60 big blinds, and the cutoff has 35 to start the hand. So I guess it's the 35 big blind stack is the effective stack here. So that sizing does kind of threaten them a little bit when they check raise to 6 here. But then what's really scary is the middle position, the original raiser who checked on the flop now raises all in. And the cutoff player who made the small down bet folds, and it's back to us. So what are we thinking here, gang? What kind of hands is our villain going to do that with? King, king, 6, 2 spades. So are they doing that with pocket 6s? Are they doing that with another king?
Sure.
They could do it with yeah, they could do it with king 6. They could do it with the spade draw. I think would be
I don't know if they'd have king 6 middle position.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
they're not gonna have
They're the
king
pre-flop
6.
raisers, so they're probably
Good
not going to
point.
have king 6.
Good point. Good point.
They're going to have any of the other kings: king, queen, king, jack, king 10, ace, king.
Yep.
Even potentially a king 9. The thing with that is, we're blocking the king 9, right?
And
With our king
all
9.
the other kings.
Right.
And all the
in a
other kings
sense.
for that
It
matter.
would be the case king. Yeah, good point.
So it's pocket aces.
Yeah.
That could be a hand that he might check to see what the action was before he did anything. Although, the fact that it's multi-way makes it difficult.
Yeah.
And he's the middle position, so he's in between, Keith and the cutoff. Normally in that position, you're going to be the one that wants to c-bet, right? Because you were the initial pre-flop aggressor. So the fact that he checked and then came over the top, it screams strength of some sort.
Yeah, me too. It feels like if he had a flush draw, that would actually be a pretty good flop to c-bet that flush draw, right? Because he'd be looking to get some folds with it. So you've talked me right around that whole flush draw thing.
Well, it's a good flop for any opening range to c-bet.
Yes.
And the fact that he doesn't is really weird.
Yeah, Tim?
I just want to make one argument for that, where I think population will, in a multi-way spot, inevitably almost over check if they're not last act. Like they'll they're too used to like, okay, like I'm out of position, I've got to check here and then face the action. I've just noticed like a lot of people, they don't tend to like think, oh, like I am, my range is the strongest here, I should be the one betting. Like a lot of people will just hit check and try to, wait for the cutoff to bet or see what the cutoff does. And then if say like the cutoff checks there, and then we check again in the big blind, like you guarantee that that person would probably raise then at that point. It's just something I've kind of noticed. Population does. Now it's definitely not like solver agreed. Solver would tell you like you have the range advantage here, bet. So that's where it gets a little tricky, because Yeah, I mean, I would bet if I was middle position there.
Right. Right. So then when he does shove, let's say he could have the flush draw. Let's say he could have other kings. Let's say he could have pocket sixes. What other hands might he do this with? Because our check raise looks pretty strong. Like the original C bet looks weak, or the original flop bet looks weak because it's in position. Everyone's checked to him. It's a small bet. That does look pretty weak. I think when we choose to check raise there, that indicates I mean, you can cut off a lot of our range that just does not continue with the check raise. So are we doing that with some spades, some sixes, and some kings? And then, what else are we check raising with there? It's not a very juicy board, right? It's not
Yeah,
like
it's
you
not.
can't
It's not
straighten
necessarily
up. You
something that
can't.
you really like want to get value from. Like you're never getting value from anything when you check raise.
Right.
In a sense to where, like, I guess you could make an argument that he could be raising ace six of hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Pair, backdoor, you've still got an ace. But even that's like, I kind of just want to call, I feel.
But I like the way you're looking for those combos. That is the kind of thing that you'd want to do it with, right? It's like Gareth James was saying in our study session on the weekend. It's like they're not making any more good hands. You got to find something to fill out that betting frequency with. You got to find some
Right.
combos of hands. So you're just like, what are the hands that make some sense to do it? I kind of like your ace six of hearts with the back door there. That's a good one there. So if we didn't have a king, this is just a clear fold for us with almost every other holding, right? Like, I guess if we don't have pocket sixes or a king ourselves, we can't call with the draw. So I almost kind of wonder, like, what's our opponent value targeting here if they have a really strong hand? This is how I out level myself in all these situations because it sort of looks more like a draw for our opponent when he picks that sizing. Because there's only so many hands that we should be able to actually call with a second best hand for, right? If he actually has one of those value hands. John, what does that make you think about? You unmuted, so sorry, it seems.
I didn't even realize I unmuted. Yeah, I don't know. This hand is tough for me. Because normally with this hand, it's the type of thing where I'll lay in wait and just kind of check call the whole way down because it doesn't look like I have a king. You have trips, pretty strong hand, and you don't want to chase away the value that you're going to get. And the problem is, of course, you have the flush draw to worry about. But I don't know. I think I probably go broke here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I don't, there's no way you're not gonna go broke here.
Right.
I mean, your hand is just too strong. And there's only there's a ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack, ace 10, or king 10,
Right.
king, jack, king, queen, ace, king are the only hands that really that you have to worry about, other than pocket sixes, are the only hands you really have to worry about. So I don't know how you don't go broke.
Yeah. And those are very unlikely, right? Like those kings are getting blocked everywhere from Sunday. Yeah.
And then just to add more bluffs that they can have here after thinking about it more, because it wasn't a 3-bet pot, they could have ace, queen, ace, jack, ace 10 of spades.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not saying everybody does it, but some people go nuts with flush draws like that.
Yep.
Thinking, okay, like cutoff did his standard, I have to bet here. Okay, big blind saying you don't have a king,
right?
I'm gonna raise you. Well, I have the nut flush draw, so I'm gonna jam.
Yeah. Hey, I get it. Yeah.
But I still think you go broke here.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah. So I think the long and short of it is all the humans on the panel say, don't worry, Keith, you were going broke. we can quibble over how the chips might have gotten in, but yeah, I think you were destined to go broke there. Now, Tim, you used the multi-way aspect from DTO to take a look at this. That's kind of a new cool thing that's being developed. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually ran through the hand with the action as it may. The way this played out was like 100% solver approved. Keith is supposed to raise here because he's actually at the weaker side of the King X. So he's supposed to raise. All the other King X's he would have, like the bigger ones, he would be flatting or they would be 3-bet pre. And the fact that he doesn't have a backdoor draw because he doesn't have hearts or spades. He has 2 diamonds. He has no backdoor draws. So that's where you can really you want to kick it up because you have no backdoor equity. But as soon as he kicks it up and the other guy jams, he's supposed to jam with all of his best queens and all of his draws, his
You
flush
mean
draws.
the original raiser, the MP player?
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. And
Interesting.
then naturally the cutoff just has to get out of the way with basically everything, well, but a king.
Right.
And then once it gets back to Keith, your hand was 100% in the call range. There's just nothing you can do. You're calling there. It was actually odd. It had you also calling some draws as well, like some flush draws.
I was wondering about that because there's just so few value hands available on that board that you kind of have to promote some of your higher equity hands, even though they don't have any
Right.
showdown value, into that calling range, which is a really weird. And this is something we all have to work on better as recreational poker players, is visualizing our entire range in the decision point and seeing if we need to continue with like 20% of our range. You'd be surprised how low that 20% can dip into hands that you would say yourself, oh no, those are folding hands. But if you fold them, you're over folding, and that'll be true for a lot of these high equity, low showdown hands like strong draws.
Yeah, and it's always just about balance too. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if you're only ever going to show up with the nuts, why would anybody ever raise you? You know, you've got to have that balance. Now, am I saying that if it got jammed to me, would I call like a queen high flush draw here?
Right.
Why not?
Right.
I mean,
No.
and maybe that's a leak that I have
Well,
to
but
work on. But
like we said in the show last week with Troy, you know, we're not. It depends on the opponents you're playing against. You know, if they're not shoving at that high enough frequency, then you can afford to tighten up a bit because they're not
Right.
they're not actually getting in there with the hands that queen high flush draw performs well against. So that's why they play the game. Tough game. We've all
Yep.
fallen in love with, fellas. Tough
That's
game.
right. That's right.
All right. Well, I think we're all going broke with Keith on this one. That's nice. What else was there? Anything else about this hand that people wanted to talk about, or was there anything about the way it went that maybe Keith could take a note for later, or anything like that? I would say he takes a note himself in the forum post, and I gotta shout out. So Keith Brandt, Monkey System, Sir Gas Leak, Eric Anderson, Eric Gin. A few other people all contributed to the forum post here. There's another, Eric Anderson put a really nice post together with a screenshot out of, I'm not sure if this is a PO solver or something he's got up there. He put this through a solver to find some info. And I know, Tim, you also submitted some info there about your DTO solver as well. So I do encourage people, go check out the forum post, find all that cool information for yourself. All right, well, then I guess without further ado, I'd like to thank Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino and website AMP, Dave and John for joining us in the chat, and Tim, Rob, and John, you guys kick butt. Really appreciate having you here each and every week. All right. Oh, Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, website AMP.